Let's flip the camera around here and we'll talk about what's going on. Actually, I'm going to leave this on a full screen so I can make sure that I'm dialed in to any of the text lines that you guys may have questions for. I'll pop that up because typically I wait to the last second to do that, then it doesn't really want to work for me. So I'll leave that on there. So that's good. We're starting off well. And the number one thing, obviously, is the fact that we're talking about Wednesday. As more of you guys join, welcome. Weather Impact Meteorologist Gary Frank here with an update as we continue to talk about what's going on over the next few days, right? The main story is the fact that we'll start this after 8 a.m., snow, sleet, freezing rain. But, you know, at any point, if anybody's telling you that this is a big snowstorm, I just still don't see that. We talked about this yesterday. There will be snow in the area, but majority of everybody's getting some sort of mix, if not rain. And it's a matter of, as we continue to go through these long-form updates and talk about this stuff, why are we dealing with that, right? So let's get to that. And once again, you can, well, they moved that on me, so let's do this. I'm going to do this for now. And, you know, you can always text that to 314-425-5355 for any sort of updates that you need throughout the area. So that's what I'm going to, if you want to text me your questions, I'll answer them here. Now, as is often the case here, I'll go through the spiel here. I'm going to look at your comments and look at your text line things at the end, just because it's a little easier to kind of, maybe I answer your question in the next 10 minutes or so. And it's a little easier for me to deal with that. So we'll talk about that. Let's focus on what happened this morning and where we are over the next several hours, of course, right now. So, of course, as you're looking at things at the moment, you got a widespread area of this rain, and this was over the last 12 hours. You saw this was one of the reasons that we saw, look at this wide area of snow, that a lot of that really didn't reach the surface. And then we saw some light flurries in the area, but it was areas to the south that got, of course, more of that actual snow that reached the ground, right? Farmington, Ironton, Lesterville, 12 Mile, Perryville, got some of this stuff that actually reached the ground, right? There was more moisture there, and then it moved out, and, you know, that's pretty much where we've been since then. But I will use this as a, you know, kind of a metric to why we don't show snowfall maps days in advance or talk about this thing, because this particular system that moved to the south and really shows a lot of rain, obviously a lot of moisture, days ago was some big snowstorm for us. If you looked at all these pages or online things that are getting shared on Facebook or whatever, people asking us about a lot of snow. And that's why we don't talk about that, because things change rapidly. And even now, we're still trying to figure out specifically what happens for Wednesday for your area. So that's one of the reasons that we have right now. And that's one of the reasons we had the Weather Impact Alert Day for those counties that have since expired that winter weather advisory. As we look at what's happening here at the moment, you can see that temperatures are holding steady at the moment as we go from the teens here, and that's the cold air that'll eventually settle in for Thursday night or Wednesday night into Thursday. But as we hold steady in the mid-30s at 37, you'll notice the 20s are here. That's where the snow is going to be, because it's clear cut. It's snow at the ground, it's snow above the surface, no problem. We've got cold air from top to bottom. But as we look into this evening, no problem, right? You have no issues whatsoever. What I do want to point out is I put this on a different look, as you can see, and you can see this steady stream of moisture that we've been kind of dealing with. And that's what we kind of had to deal with in terms of, you know, for the most part, we've had some pretty decent moisture that's streaming in from the southwest. And that's where we're looking off to the south. And you'll see this here. Let me point this out. This is the steady stream of moisture. Watch this off to the southeast. You'll see that here. That's what's kind of feeding into some of those, you know, rainstorms and, of course, a little bit of light snow this morning. But this is the next system that's going to tap into this. You'll see that here dipping down into Arizona and into the Four Corners. And as it continues its push here, it is going to lift some of that moisture and enhance any precipitation that we have. So that's what we're going to look at over the next several hours. So as we talk about what's going on the rest of the night, we're staying above freezing overall. But as we get closer to tomorrow morning, we're at 31 degrees. And here's how I think this is going to play out. And I'm not sure, and I'll show you why it's been so difficult to, you know, talk about what's affecting us on Wednesday. And I'll show you this look at Futurecast specifically, just to show you why things are all different. And I think this is a general sense, but I'm going to break it down at the end, a general sense of what we can expect. But I want to show you three other different models as I kind of have, just to give you an idea of why things have changed so much, even within the last 12 hours, maybe even since Anthony talked about it this morning here. So as you were talking about tomorrow, I think if you're an early commuter, you're going to be just fine. I think the later commuters, things are starting to get a little bit more slick, or at least something is falling, right? Notice our temperatures here still staying around freezing, if not going just above that. But this particular look is showing a lot of snow here, but look at where our temperatures are in the mid 30s. And I think, I particularly don't know that we're going to get that much snow or have that snow look further south. I think that this is going to be something that, probably moves in a different direction. And if you're really kind of pinpointing where this would go, I can really, move this in terms of north and south, right? I think, if you want to move this, I can actually sit here and move this. And I don't think that's out of the question. I'll leave it for now in that sense, but I would think it would be something that looks maybe like this, where we have a rain snow line that settles in, and it's going to be, where does this rain, snow, freezing rain, sleet line? I think it's going to be right around 44. I think it's going to set up right around 44 and 70 here, where if you're in St. Charles, Alton, Herman, I think it's probably a degree or two colder here at this point, if I'm honest, in those particular areas. But even this is by noon. And so if it's snowing actively and it's above freezing, there will certainly be impacts. Things will get slick. But if it stays above freezing and it's not snowing, I mean, this is just wet roadways, or you may have the light icy glaze on some of the elevated surfaces and trees. And I think that's what I'm leaning on expecting. And one of the reasons I talk about why things are so much different, let me pause this just at 1 o'clock and I'll show you 3 different models as I kind of have the last couple of days. So, here's where we are right now with this. You've got 1 o'clock. This is where it has the entire city of St. Louis, basically in all kinds of snow, that thin line there. And then you've got, this other model here where specifically we're looking at a lot of dry air filtering in the afternoon. And I think that's going to be important. And that's one of the reasons that you don't see much in the way of filled in precipitation here. This right here would be kind of a dry layer of air, which effectively end our precipitation for the time frame. So I think that's one of the things that we have to consider tomorrow as well. And then you look at this one here with a different look at this model, and it has that freezing rain and frozen precipitation a little bit closer to us. And I think this is probably closer. I think that pink area of that glaze is going to be somewhere to the north. But I'll revisit this once again and talk about why it's so important that we deal with this here. And what Scott and I are always looking at is, this is going to vary, right? We understand where rain is the predominant factor, where it's above freezing, thousands of feet above the surface at this time of the year. But the freezing rain, to me, I think is something we got to look at, because we have that broad, warm layer of air to the south. Even though it's going to fight, it's driving in some moisture, but it's also going to fight that colder air that's closer to Kansas City and even our northwestern areas. And these pockets may be this big throughout the entire time, and they may be this big, and it may vary here and there depending on those pockets of warmer air. So that's why you may get times where you're getting freezing rain, you're getting sleet, where that warm air layer is a little bit more shallow. So it varies here. It gets bigger, smaller, bigger, smaller over those course of those areas on the 44 corridor. Or you're going to get some snow where, it's all frozen. So like I said, those pockets of warmer air are all going to be different depending on where you are. So when we're talking about some of the differences here, that's why. So let me go county by county and kind of show you what I think is going to happen, at least at the time frame, and kind of give you an idea. So here's what this looks like to me at this point. And so overall, what you're going to see, I think, is to the north, you're going to deal with snow, right? I think with temperatures closer to freezing, you've got more of that cold layer of air above the surface. I think Troy, Jerseyville, Litchfield probably dealing with predominantly snow. We have lower visibility in some of those pockets of heavier snow, and there are going to be some snow-covered roads, I think, even if the warm roads are able to overcome that. But as we head into, areas in the Metro East, I think you're going to see rain, sleet, and snow with temperatures near 32, if not just light above that. And, I think as we watch for changing conditions here, that's what we're going to be dealing with here from 9 a.m. to 8 o'clock. I think that's where you're going to start to see that pick up. By 9 a.m., rain, sleet, and snow. But watch a little bit further off to the west. I think we're still going to see for the St. Louis area rain, freezing rain with some snow. I don't think there's a lot of snow in the St. Louis area. The further west you go, closer to Herman, I think you're going to see those slick spots predominantly develop here. And then as we go to the south, you'll notice that we've got more of that mix line or rain, and I think you're going to see mostly rain with some freezing rain. Temperatures are large in part going to be above freezing with some isolated slick spots. It's not out of the question. So from a standpoint of what we're all going to get, so I know this is where a lot of people are in question here. We're going to get all the above, right? If you're off to the northwest, you're going to get somewhere between 3 to 6 inches, and that's the heavier snow that we're kind of tracking for you. And I think really from, this area, like I mentioned, that lighter shade where, I think you're going to see maybe some snow, sleet, pockets of freezing rain here and there. That's where you're going to get 1 to 4 inches. It's this wide area along 44 where you can see up to 2 inches, but I would not be surprised if a lot of us get a dusting to a half an inch of snow. 1 inch being on the high side, because I think we're going to see more of that mix where that really kills our snowfall totals. And then there's a little small shallow area with some light icing from Farmington, Sparta, Mount Vernon, and Flora, but that's going to be a very shallow area where we have mostly rain to the south. And so that's what I think we're really going to settle into, is mostly rain to the south there. So those are the things that we're going to continue to monitor here over the next few days. And so as we kind of pull this back on, let's see, I'm going to leave this on this specific thing and maybe start to look at some of your questions here and see where you guys are at with this, because I want to answer some of you guys' questions here as I kind of pull this back out. I'll pull this Futurecast here because I think it probably does a little better job since I moved where I think that rain snow line is going to be. I think it's something like that. So as we pull back some of this, I'm going to go from questions from top to bottom. Sherian asked, what about Fredericktown? I'm thinking more rain than anything, really. I think to the south, I think you're probably going to be dealing more with rain. Temperatures are above freezing for me for the most part. Granite City, same type of thing. I think you're going to see all that mix that is going to be in that glaze where you see that mix of freezing rain, sleet, and snow. And I really think 1 inch of snow is going to be about right for this way that this sets up, because I think the temperatures are going to be above freezing as this is actively falling here. So Cheryl said STL City will get 2.5 inches of snow, hardly any sleet. I am right, listen to me. Well, I don't think we're getting 2.5 inches of snow in St. Louis, but that's okay. I think we'll have to make a friendly wager on that. Let's see. Dan said, in other words, they are clueless. Well, that's a common Facebook comment, and that's a good one. I laughed so hard I fell off my dinosaur, because we see these things all the time. And some of these, the last few storms have been more clear cut, but that's why I explain all these things that go along. And when we do these long form explanations here, when we're talking about them over the last couple of days, it kind of works out for us, because then you can see our thought process behind every forecast, and then we can kind of give you an idea of things that have changed. And then it's better than the 3 minutes I got on TV. So yeah, this is how it works out for that. So we got that. And then let's see. A bunch of words. Let's see, those are fine. Jamie, thank you for the comment there. Let's see, morning flights. I think the earlier you're out, the better. I'm optimistic. We're not in charge of the airlines, of course. I'm optimistic because of those temperatures, right? You can see these temperatures here as I put this back, that they're above freezing. I think there's going to be some delays, but I don't think that they're going to see one of these mega airport shutdowns from this. But there will probably be some delays. I still think they may be able to land planes in this, so it's just one of those things you have to pay attention to that. What time will snow end, and how many inches can you expect for St. Charles? I would expect maybe 2 to 3 inches of total sleet and snow for St. Charles, but I think it's going to probably end by 5 or 6 o'clock tomorrow. Arnold, let's see, I'll pull this back up here so we can kind of show you what this is. I think Arnold, once again, would be on the closer to a half an inch side of things, just because of it being on the south side of things. I think we're going to see maybe a half an inch to an inch, but you're going to see predominantly mixed with rain, I think, at this point. Same for Webster Groves and Troy as well. 4:45 flight out of Mid-America. I don't know if that's PM or AM. I would think that's PM. I'm sorry, because I don't know. That's a pretty serious early red eye. 4:45, I think, looks to be okay. Like I said, I think it being on time is a different story, but in terms of completely canceling it, I don't think so. I think it's going to be winding down closer to that time. What time are you thinking in House Springs? Let me go right back around to some of these things. I think as we start off, once again, I'll go to the south here. You've got, I would say it starts as early as 8 o'clock and ends at 8 o'clock as well. So let's see. What do we think as far as Troy? I think Troy's probably going to be dealing with, more snow than anything. I think that's a little easier one as I kind of go back to Troy. I think you're dealing with more snow than anything, snow-covered roads. That's an area that I think is that's an easy one, right? That's where we have more snow than anything. And then Thursday will be fine and clear, Maryland. So I think it's going to be cold, but it's going to be fine and clear. Otherwise, as I look at this specifically here, you'll notice that as we're talking about Wednesday, I think this particular map is probably a good metric. And I'm going to walk over to see if anybody has hit the text line so I can try to answer some questions there. As you kind of look at this map here, for the most part, you know, those are, somebody asked how much ice for Granite City, Illinois. I think, you know, ice, I think we will see perhaps a light glaze of ice. I'm optimistic that our impacts from ice on the roads are going to be a little lower because of the temperatures being up. So that's one question that we got on the text line. So I appreciate those questions, comments, and concerns. So as we talk about, that was, like I mentioned, that was Troy on the Missouri side that I answered the question about Troy for. I really think that overall, this is pretty close to what we're expecting, because I really think this area in the pink is obviously really has to deal with that warm layer of air that's going to make things really, I mean, if you, and it's interesting because we follow the models pretty consistently. I looked at it yesterday and I was pretty close to where this map was, right? I haven't changed it a whole lot, but looking at it before I went to bed last night, 10:30, 11 o'clock, you look at this and you go, this might be all rain. I mean, that's the way it switched. And then this morning, we're back to snow. And that's the way it is. And that's why it's important for us as forecasters and meteorologists to kind of work through this, figure it out, and kind of give ourselves an idea of, okay, well, this is what we're dealing with here. These are the changes that we've looked at over the last few days. And these are some of the things that we're starting to see that are a little more symmetrical. So that's why I added mostly rain, because I really think those areas to the south are going to mostly see rain, even in Farmington and Sparta, but you'll be right on the edge of that icing line where it's really around the St. Louis area that we deal with, I think 2 inches on the high side. I think it's an inch, half an inch to an inch. That's kind of where I think we're settling into this right now. So in terms of probability of schools closing, I'm not a teacher. I think we're going to see a lot of maybe remote days. I really do. I think there are going to be a small handful of that, but that would be the most likely scenario, I think, at that point. Maryland Heights, same thing. I think you're dealing with, you know, really around an inch of snow, but you're going to see that consistent off and on freezing rain, sleet, and snow, and just depends on, I think there's going to be a lot of wet roads at times, but if you get in one of those pockets of snow, that's where things may get slick enough and cold enough for a brief period of time, some of those elevated surfaces. So anyway, St. Clair, Missouri, Wednesday to Thursday. I wonder if kids may not have school Thursday. I don't see them not having school Thursday. The only thing I expect that would cause a wrench in that is some of the side roads that maybe got something, because we are going to see temperatures that get cold. Like, there's no doubt about it. Temperatures are going to get cold behind that. So let me see if I can find that here. If I can maybe just put this future cast on afterward, and I'll put this throughout. Look at temperatures by 8, 9. I'll put this on a full screen, maybe leave you with the map here as I close this out for a second. But look at how we get into the evening. Watch the cold air settle in. We're in the 20s. We're probably going to be done with precipitation then, but look at us falling to the mid-20s. That's where it's going to get cold. So anyway, that's the main story for us here, and I'll leave you with this map here. And we've, of course, got I've got updates on this. We'll put this in the story, and we'll have continued updates throughout the next several hours. Scott's got an update at 4 o'clock about this. So thanks for your questions here as we look at this. Like I said, this is probably the biggest, this is probably the best look up to 2 inches. I really think this area is not going to get a lot of snow. You're going to see that snow plus freezing rain, maybe a little bit of sleet combination that is just kind of pretty consistent. And with temperatures being above freezing, a lot of this area, while will be slick, this is not going to resemble that snowstorm that we had weeks ago. So you're not dealing with that quite as much as a result of this. So we'll leave you with that here for now as I put this on a full screen, and I'll go see if there's any more questions before I end this live stream. But like I said, we will be on here and have this update on 5+. We will have updates the rest of the evening. Like I said, I think we're going to continue to be in pretty good shape, but I think I'm trending toward more, you know, well, this is just going to be more of a little bit of a wintry mix here. Excuse me as I clear my throat. We've been talking a while. I got to get a little water here. So like I said, I'll leave you with that for now as we continue to look at things, and we will talk to you at 4 o'clock. Scott's got an update.